The books of 1st and 2nd Samuel are untamed, unpredictable, and wildly underrated. So let's jump in. Let's start at the story of Absalom. And in order to understand Absalom, David's son, we must start at Amnon, David's firstborn son. Well, Amnon had an unhealthy obsession for his half-sister Tamar, like really creepy fixation. Well, his cousin, Jonadab, had a terrible idea. He said, Amnon, you should fake being sick and then you should tell your dad this.
I would like my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight so I may watch her and then eat it from her hand.
Amnon takes Jonadab's advice, gets Tamar to make his food as he's watching her, right? And then she ends up hand feeding him in Amnon's room. She rightfully trusts her brother. But Amnon is a psychopath, and he gets her alone and then grabs her, and she knows exactly what's about to happen to her because she begs him not to do it, but the dude is cuckoo, so he took her hoo-hoo. She's devastated, right? Begs him not to abandon her after the act. She even proposes marriage just to restore her dignity, but Amnon all of a sudden absolutely despises her. He hates her guts. The nutjob was fixated on her like a creep before, and then tosses her out of the room like trash after he does you know what. Tamar was absolutely broken from that. Tells her brother Absalom what happened. Well, Absalom sits on his anger for 2 years. Then Absalom is like, yo, Amnon, brother, let's go to this sheep shearing party, bro. So they head to this wool clipping festival. And of course there's heavy drinking because who wants to clip wool of a sheep, right? So they're drinking. Amnon, we know for sure, is drinking. And then during this, Absalom commands his men to stab the drunken pervert brother, Amnon, terminating what was supposed to be the future king, firstborn son. Well, Absalom, fearing King David's wrath, right, rolls out to Geshur, a different city, because he doesn't know what his dad's going to do. So Absalom is holed up in Geshur. He's out of David's reach altogether. You know, he just shanked his brother into the shadow realm, so he's scared. Well, David's right-hand man, Joab, at this point in the timeline, Joab must really like Absalom because he pays a woman to make up a story to tell King David in order to get Absalom back. The lie she told King David is about her 2 feuding sons. They get into a fight and one son terminates the other son. And the town was now supposedly gonna banish her only son she had left. So it was kind of a sob story. Joab made this story up to draw parallels to the Absalom and the Amnon situation. Joab's plan was to get David to make sure he had empathy for the lady's only son supposedly she had left. He wanted David to feel like he needed to protect that only son, not banish or harm him. Well, David fell for it. He was tricked. He'd said he'd protect the lady's son. Well, after he confirmed that he would protect the lady's only son, she threw it right back in his face about his own son, Absalom, being basically banished at that point, right? Well, David was in fact convinced by this trickery, and Absalom was let back into Jerusalem. But David doesn't want to talk to him, gives him the cold shoulder. After a while, Absalom has been back. He kind of freaks out and basically tells his dad, King David, either talk to me or just terminate me, right? Well, David relents and they reconcile for a little while because Absalom has a plan. Absalom is always plotting on the regular, and he starts hanging out at the city gates, intercepting the people that want to see King David, stopping them, basically saying, King David doesn't have time for you, I do. I'll always help you out. I don't think he has time for you at all, so just come to me, I'll handle it. He did this for a while, long enough to convince a lot of people that he was the guy. He was the guy who should be king. As this was going on, I don't think David really knew the extent of Absalom's political slimery. I mean, maybe he did, it didn't seem like he did, because Absalom went to David and he kind of plays the God card, telling David, the Lord's sending me to Hebron to worship him. Well, in Hebron, away from David's eyes, he's a master manipulator. Absalom ends up firing up King David's own people against him, right? They took Absalom's BS hook, line, and sinker. Absalom ends up building up an army of tens of thousands of people over this. It gets so bad, the people turned against David so much, David has to roll out, escape Jerusalem. But David has his own army that's loyal to him. And eventually that army and Absalom's army meet up in a forest. The Bible says this.
There, Israel's troops were routed by David's men, and the casualties that day were great, 20,000 men.
And then I believe after the main battles and all those casualties, Absalom's charging on his mule. Not a horse. He's rocking the mule. That's the noise. And he's got a lot of hair billowing as he's riding, right? And wham! His hair gets caught in an oak tree. Now he's left swinging by his hair. Well, one of David's soldiers spots Absalom hanging from a tree, but he doesn't hurt him. Why? Well, because David gave instructions to spare his life. He had to battle him, and ultimately he didn't want to hurt him, just like any other dad. So Absalom is dangling probably for at least 10-20 minutes, and a soldier saw him and then rode out to tell Joab, the commander. Now remember, Joab was the one who convinced David to bring Absalom back out of banishment. So he was probably feeling some type of way about Absalom, like betrayed. So the soldier gets there and tells Joab, yo, I just saw Absalom hanging from a tree by his hair, dude. So Joab's like, why didn't you take him out? Soldier's like, you're crazy. I'm not doing that. David said not to hurt him. Well, Joab's probably pretty angry, right? Because Joab's plan to bring back Absalom from banishment set this whole crazy civil war up. Joab rolls out to the dangling Absalom, ignores David's wishes completely, picks up 3 spears, and drives them through Absalom's midsection. Well, Absalom is done for, over with. Joab's crew throws his body off to the side, they pile rocks on him, messengers sprint to David to tell him what happened, and David is crushed, super crushed. That's pretty much it. Joab goes full savage, and it's not the first time either, and ends this Absalom story. But this is just one slice of the chaos that you can find in 1st and 2nd Samuel. And if you ever want to dive into it yourself, well, I'll tell you a couple stories you might find. Saul uses a witch to summon a dead prophet. Some poor guy touches the ark of God, instantly terminated. David supposedly saws people up, burns others. To stop a famine, 7 of Saul's family members get hung and then left up for public viewing. David dances in his underwear in front of everybody. His wife hates it. They fight. God curses his wife. David slaughters towns, lies about it, and befriends a Philistine king while doing all this. David chooses one of 3 punishments that wipe out 70,000 people. God's angel almost destroys Jerusalem, and David barely stops it. Saul's daughter fakes David's body in his bed to trick some assassins trying to get him. David acts insane, drools all over himself just to survive some crazy situation. Joab hugs a dude, and then the other guy's intestines are on the floor the next minute. One warrior kills 800 dudes in one fight. More giants get taken care of. David sleeps in a woman's bed and has her husband terminated. Then he marries her. Pagans fear God so much they send God's ark back, and they send it with some golden tumors, and I think they sent golden rats as a gift. A woman saves a city by tossing a man's head over a wall. Some rich guy disrespects David and then terminated, and then David marries the guy's widow. David reclaims one of his old wives, and her husband is literally crying but can't do anything about it. And really, that doesn't even scratch the surface, right? I can cover some of this stuff in the future if you want. I can also do more reaction videos like my friends, the Biblical Hitmen podcast. I might do a couple of those coming up here this month. But please like this video, and you have to comment and subscribe. See you all next week. Like and subscribe. I do it for you. Do it. Please. I do it for you.